Welcome to the Radical Innovators series powered by Ronstadt. In each episode, we will bring to you bold and insightful conversations with top HR leaders from major global organizations to inspire the talent leaders of tomorrow. Join our journey as we explore how these trailblazers are shaping the future of work, driving innovation, improving the lives of their people, and creating radical shifts in HR and talent strategy. I'm Frank Congiu, EVP of Human Capital Strategy and Executive Partnerships at Ronstadt Enterprise. And in each episode, I sit down with industry leaders who are redefining the world of talent and business. HR is undergoing a radical shift. AI, automation, and digital transformation are redefining how we lead, engage, and develop talent. Today, we're speaking with one of the top minds driving this change, Jacqui Canney, Chief People and AI Enablement Officer at ServiceNow. Jacqui is a visionary leader who's redefined talent strategy at some of the world's most influential companies. She brings a deep understanding of how technology, culture, and leadership intersect to drive business transformation. Today, we'll discuss the evolving role of HR in the digital era, the impact of AI on talent strategies, and what Jacqui calls a human renaissance, how organizations can build a workforce that is ready for the future. Jacqui has led HR innovation at companies like Accenture, Walmart, and WPP before joining ServiceNow, where she's helping shape the future of work through cutting-edge HR tech and forward-thinking leadership. And her title was just expanded to include AI Enablement Officer. I'm excited to hear more about that and her insights on how businesses can create dynamic, inclusive, and high-performing cultures in an era of constant change. All right, Jacqui, thank you for joining us. Excited to be here with you today.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here.
As the Chief People Officer and AI Enablement Officer of ServiceNow, which is a new addition that I want to certainly talk about at some point in your title, you're at the forefront of what's being really, I think, an AI-driven HR large-scale business transformation, and excited to dive into your journey and what that looks like.
Yeah, me too. I'm very excited. Thanks for having us and I appreciate the time.
So, as I was doing my background on you, one of the things I noticed was that you're one of the first in your family, if I understand it, the first in your family to attend college, which is obviously a significant milestone. How did that experience mold you into and your leadership style and for your passion for people development?
Oh, well, thank you for that question. Yeah, I look back at that time as so formative. I was really grateful. My parents took out extra mortgage on the home. They
Mm.
counted up the savings bonds that they had saved since I was a child, physically on the dining room table. And I remember watching that and feeling such responsibility to not only go to college, but to be able to take that and turn it into something and not shirk or not take seriously the faith, the responsibility that they had put in me. And it led me to pick a role, a degree that I knew I could get into a great company, and that was accounting. And I got what I aimed for. I went to an awesome company called Arthur Andersen that I wound up 25 years staying in because it was everything I had hoped. It had the promise of development. It had the promise of growth. It had the promise of, you know, mentoring and shaping futures. And the more I leaned into it, the more I got out of it. And I look back at that time of really taking seriously why I was picking accounting. And I think that led me down a really great path.
So we share more than I knew of because I'm also an accounting major, and on top of that, spent a lot of time working with the firm that eventually became Accenture. So I'm sure we probably have a lot of mutual contacts there as well.
Oh, sure.
So then, what really drew you into HR? I mean, as you keep thinking about, you certainly had other career options on the table as an accounting major. This is definitely a career pivot. What was the draw?
Yeah, early on, I was traveling quite a bit and it wasn't feeling like satisfying from the personal side of what I wanted for my life. And I spoke to someone who I really trusted in the company and was going to leave. I was probably
Mm.
5 years into it. And she said, don't leave, stay, try this new role that was kind of a bridge from finance to HR internally. And I found that because I understood how the company, the firm made money, which was mostly people times utilization, to build to clients and customers, that it helped me be successful in this pivot outside of a sort of client facing role to internally helping Arthur Andersen, then Accenture, figure out how they were going to make money. And I really loved the part of being able to develop human capital at the same time. So matching passions of people, matching times in their life with the roles that we needed for the clients that we were serving just became a career path that I didn't see coming, but surely was grateful that I had found.
Well, share that as well in terms of another of a career path that I didn't necessarily expect, but it turned into. And it's interesting as you talk about how the impact of a mentor that you were able to go to and gave you that insight. And I want to talk to you a little bit more later on about mentoring. As you think about now your current role, leading a phenomenal organization, rapid growth, thinking about the evolving and sort of the future workplace needs. Curious what your business strategy is, because you've often, I wrote down this quote, you often say that the people strategy is the business strategy. Love to have you elaborate on what that looks like in practice and your partnership with your CIO, which I heard you speak about at a conference a few years back, but also your CEO and your CFO.
Yeah, I'm a big believer. Accenture was an amazing classroom for this. If the business wasn't talking about the strategy around human capital, it probably wasn't going to get done. You can't have a great HR strategy that runs parallel to what the business wants to do, grow in new areas, transform in others, and what is the talent imperatives that you can create in HR or people that drive those businesses. So right now for ServiceNow, our dream is to be the Desco 21C, which is
Mm,
the defining enterprise software of the 21st century. It's a lot of words, but it says big dreams. And to do that, I know the way that we're serving up our human capital strategy is three things right now. We are people led, which means my team is focused on a product mindset. Everything that we build and ship to our 27,000 people or our 3 million learners has to have a product mindset in how we're driving that so we have great adoption, great experience, and ultimately great business results. The second area of focus for my team is to be data driven, which is in our core and very much, how we operate here, but so important that we pull it up that it's, one of my top three priorities. And the last one, which won't surprise you, Frank, is that AI powered,
yeah.
thinking of everything we do for our company and particularly for an HR organization to think of ourselves as AI first, like coming out as an AI HR function, not trying to fix one. And it really creates more creative mindsets, I think, in use cases as we continue to evolve the HR function for the business here at ServiceNow.
One of the things I want to come back to in a little bit is the product mindset, but so I'll get to that in a little bit. But this is not your first rodeo in terms of leading large scale transformations. You've done it at a number of other firms. Curious, what are some of the key lessons that people can take away that you're leveraging now to make sure that this is as successful as possible?
Sure. I mean, I have had great experiences, awesome companies. And I'll go to Accenture first. I was there for 25 years, and I really do believe that each CEO there, every leader that I worked for, the people strategy was absolutely central to that company going from 25,000 when I started to, it was like 400,000 when I left, and always having people at the center of their strategy, whether it was hard times or easy times. At Walmart, it was still putting people at the center, but Doug, McMillan was looking to change retail and Walmart. And he knew that he could do that through the experience of his people. Better experiences, whether you're working on the front line, in the home office, in a functional team, would unlock time and creativity and bandwidth to be able to serve the customer better, right? So again, having like the people at the center of it. WPP, an awesome branding, marketing, advertising company with 1 in 5 impressions being created by companies and people inside WPP. It's massive, massive impact. So having the people at the center there too was good business because it created better ads, it created
Yeah.
more strategy. And then here, you've heard me talk about ServiceNow. There's nothing we could do without our people here. Their innovation, their go go to it, their values, our mission. It's just it all comes to life every day. And I think it's because of the people at the heart.
Yeah, you made a point though, right? People at the heart, but in a few minutes ago, you talked about the importance of having sort of that operational understanding. What are some of the things that HR leaders can do to continuously elevate and make sure that they are more aligned to the business and their impact on actual business outcomes?
I have my team here be able to know how we make money. That sounds really basic, probably, but I don't know that that happens in everybody's HR organization. That if you're stopped in the hallway or stopped at home or anywhere, and the earnings release just came out, or CEO says something, or whatever's happening in the world that impacts your company, to be conversant in how that impacts our bottom line in any way is really important to me. So investing with our CFO to spend time with my team, to have her team and my team working together on workforce planning. How did those impacts happen? It's not like we have a handoff of one job versus the other between finance and HR. We're like very, very connected. And I think that helps my team, me, be more relevant in the business discussion, whether it's about in the boardroom or at Bill McDermott's table, he's our CEO, that I'm there representing the chief people officer role, but I'm certainly able to contribute because I know what the data says, what products are working, what countries maybe need investment, and I can contribute to that conversation as the business person around the table, not just the HR lead, because I've invested the time to learn how our business runs.
I think everyone knows your CEO is a regular contributor on CNBC, and certainly one of my favorites when I get a chance to see him on there. You may be slightly biased, but I think that's certainly the market's opinion as well. The title change is one of the things I think is the coolest things that's happened, right? Because it's something that I've been putting a lot of emphasis on going back to last year, where I brought together 60 leaders at the TED conference, which is a mix of CHROs and CIOs, and it feels like you were way ahead of that game in understanding how important that relationship was, given all of the changes specific to AI. So much so now that that's become part of your title and your responsibility. Can you just talk a little bit about what that shift looks like and how that's impacted what you do for the organization day to day?
Yeah, and I reflect on this because I've obviously gotten the question quite a bit since the title got announced, and I feel like in many ways I've been preparing for this title change for a long time. When you go
Hmm.
back and think about how Accenture used technology, and we talk about the HR strategy around that. And I saw early, because I had great leaders and teachers, that the element of design along with technology, along with human capital, sort of skill sets, was the unlock for great work. And, those elements were not commonly put together in a people team in like 2015. So when we were doing more of that and practicing that in Accenture, and when I went to Walmart, that was a key part of my role and my team's role there, was to talk about product mindset, to bring how technology plus skill building and investment in talent together is the unlock. Otherwise, technology will let you down if you don't put the human capital at the center of the change. And now here
Mm.
today at ServiceNow, where AI has really become something that, wasn't talked about the way, even 5 years ago, Bill McDermott, the rest of the team, and the board see how powerful this technology is, but not without your people. So having an enablement plan for the 27,000 people who work here, all of our customers and partners, access to training, whether it's physical training, experiences, how they experience our products and have the confidence to use them, is very much a human capital problem to solve. And that's why Bill, put this here. Now I have to completely be collaborating with our CIO, our CFO, the other people around the table. This isn't just an HR, job to be done. And I think it's that thinking of design, technology, and humanity that really is the unlock. And that's why we did it here.
Yeah, and you've got a phenomenal CIO who I've had a chance to have dinner with in New York, and looking forward to doing so again. As I think about just what you talked about in terms of the impact of AI, and you saw this coming for a while, I understand you've done some work and created a 4-point playbook. Would love to hear what that looks like in terms of how you're looking at AI and ushering in more of a human experience while you're doing all the basics and automating tasks, allowing people to focus on more high return thinking. Can you share a real world example of what this looks like today at ServiceNow?
Yeah, and if it's helpful, this is our 4-point plan. If anybody's trying to figure out how to get started, or maybe even give me feedback if they have other, great ways of thinking about this. But my team, we needed to get started. There was a whole lot of talking and thinking and reading and wondering. And now we're at a point where we said, let's just try, right? Like, let's get moving. So we said 4 things have to be true. One is we are cleared up, we have our clear mind on our data and what that structure is, where we get it, how we're managing it, how we're governing it. Because without the data being right and clean and and correct, we would have failed in a lot of our work about putting in AI. The second is we built an AI factory, which is a way of managing our use cases, to how we choose what we're going to do, why we do them, why we don't do them, and then why we refine if we're going to refine before we try to do any of the use cases. which has been really effective. The third, and this isn't necessarily in a particular order, is how we're training and enabling the HR team
Yeah.
in this space, in this technology, so that they can have the freedom to even think about the art of the possible of how to use this technology and help each other think creatively about it and how to take chances with it. And then the last one is how we measure the ROI and the value of what we're doing with AI, so that we're not just testing and practicing for the sake of it, that we're driving value, whether it's time saved or um, new ways of working created, certainly new, value that we've been able to unlock with having maybe not added a lot of headcount, but kept growing in the places that we need to. It's been really great, and I feel like it's working. So I offer that as an idea for anybody who might be trying to get started.
I'm sure plenty of people will be excited to leverage and borrow from that playbook. In the spirit of where this podcast was born out of, and thinking about what are the radical innovations and that organizations or individuals are leading within their organizations that are driving outcomes. I'm curious, what's the one radical change you've seen specific to maybe within your HR organization that's driven some demonstrable ROI and others can learn from and potentially leverage?
Yeah. So thinking about this question, I think the natural tendency is going to be like, we saved
Yeah.
$400 million or 2 million hours. Like all of those big numbers exist in practicality when you apply AI. We ourselves, I have doubled the amount, my team has doubled the amount of productivity and people operations by implementing our technology with, powered by AI. And those are significant dollars, it's significant time that the team can go do other things. They can be creating new use cases. So I don't want to minimize that as radical. But what I do think is the radical change that AI is driving is kind of in our plain sight. And that is revealing just how important the people leader is, how
Mm.
much the people manager is, and how much they're taking the time to develop their people. Because that's the unlock of the technology. And I know we've been talking about that, but that is so much in plain sight, yet avoided clearly. It's not the first thing people tackle. It's like, how do I get twice the amount of output from
Right.
the same people? And you're going to get that. But boy, if you could invest in people leaders that have then the ability to take care of their people, like it's going to reveal all of that extra time that they have to do that work. And I think that's going to be pretty radical.
I agree, and I'd love to hear as you think about what are the ROI around things like as simple as employee engagement, or what are the things that you're doing to be able to give employees back hours of their time to work on their own physical or mental well-being, or as these things develop. These are the things that I think are radically innovative and exciting for people.
Yeah. So one thing I read over the weekend, and this has just probably been out there for a little bit, but I finally got to it, is in the Deloitte report, they surveyed managers, tens of thousands of them, I want to say, and in the Human Capital Trends report, and it had 40% of managers said that they are focused on the daily tasks that they have to do. So it's very, tactical, like in their day. And then only 14% of their time is spent developing their people. So
Mm.
that's like a disconnect there. And then the other point I read is that in a Gallup poll, $8.9 trillion is lost in the global economy for disengaged workforce. So I'm like, here you go, right? Like this is the unlock of AI. If you can clear the
Yeah.
plate and the road for the managers to not be doing those tasks that are taking all their time, they have more time to focus on their people. You would have to believe the engagement, would rise up and the global economy wouldn't lose the 8.9 trillion. And how that translates into ROI, I think sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, no, I love that. I just want to go back to the product mindset that you talked about a little bit in terms of how is that treating HR and processes and products? Can you explain what that looks like in your day to day?
Sure. It's organizing around the experiences you're trying to drive. And we talk a lot here about what do I want people to think, feel, do, even say. So when you're driving your work as an HR team, not thinking about I have to have a performance management process, it's going to take, top 20% or bottom 15 or whatever you're trying to, whatever your philosophy is at the core. Performance management, you want to drive performance in the company. So what's going to inspire people to have those conversations, to have the, open dialogue between a manager and an employee? Do you use AI to practice those things? Do you have an experience that's a lot more, sort of delightful than trying to click, 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 click to, to whatever it is to get to fill out a form that goes away that you don't see again, that doesn't really help develop the person. And if you take a product mindset into the think, feel, do, say, you can start to construct what I would say is an experience for the manager and for the person that is much more engaging, certainly drives a better conversation, can provide great insights into what potentially is a development plan or what are the next best roles, predicting those things for the individual and the manager so that that conversation is really focused on the most human things as opposed to the most tactical things. But it's not in our nature usually in HR to think about designing that way. And that I do think is a shift and one that I feel like we press on here a lot. We don't always get it right, but we are really, really working hard to just be truly a product mindset organization for HR.
And with that, so what I'd love curious about the balance of technology and human touch then, because we talked a little bit about this. The technology should free people up to do things much better. I'm fresh coming out of a conference where there was some of the world's leading thinkers on AI, and then people that were coming at this from certainly different points of view. What do you think the balance is where there's this ability for artificial intelligence where there's already showing that it can have more empathy
Mhm.
um, and better understanding of individuals. Some people prefer to be coached by AI. As you think about all of these different stats that we're hearing and the stories we're hearing from some of these innovative organizations out there, what's the right balance for you, and sort of how do you find this meaningful connection between the human while scaling AI?
Yeah. The other one I'm afraid of a little bit is if I'm talking to the AI and then I turn around, I talk to you, am I nice to the AI and am I nice to you? Like, are we going to like not figure out who we're talking to? And is that going to change how we are? I think there's quite a bit to learn and to study on the interaction of the humans and technology and in the way that it's coming forward. But I have this quote that someone said, you use AI to automate the ordinary to humanize the extraordinary.
Mm,
And I like it, right? Because if you think about it in those categories of you automate the ordinary, but like leave the space for the extraordinary, which is very much like the conversation that you and I are having, but augmented with either the time saved or the information to make it relevant. And I think it's going to take real practice, real practice to be able to keep the humanity and the technology in the right check of management.
I want to shift a little bit in terms of what you're doing right now in a high growth organization and scaling through this large complexity, I think very complex change and dynamic and environment, not just your own organization, but what's going on in the world. Um, ServiceNow is recognized, I think, as one of the companies that's leading that, and certainly in part due to your leadership and Bill and others. But what are some of the biggest cultural challenges that you're seeing in such a hyper growth environment, and how do you address those to preserve the cultural secret sauce that I think has made ServiceNow such a successful organization?
Well, it's grown even, I've been here almost 4 years and we've grown about 10,000 people in just that short period of time. And we have 1.6 million applicants for like 5,000 jobs. It's
Yeah.
really a lot of attention on the company. And I think all the time about our culture. It is really important. And we've had 4 CEOs over the 20 years that we've been public. So I think back like, okay, that's a lot of change in 4 years. How do we keep our culture amongst, such big milestones? And I look back to Fred Luddy, who is our founder, where the customer was absolutely at the heart of the solution that he built. There's this founder story that people can go look up where he produced code to help a coworker with her work because it was frustrating and tedious and very time consuming. That was like the first workflow that was built. And today, that's still how we operate. What is the needs of the customer and how are we delivering them? How are we delivering great products? And how are we driving that R&D, that constant R&D, so that we can continue to be this innovator, organically growing in a way that others have not done before. And we have these moments. We listen all the time. We're constantly listening to our people. We have these cultural moments where we have a town hall every quarter after our earnings that are big totems of our culture where we talk about our values. We have examples of them. We bring it to life, not just with words, but how people should feel about our culture. And we ask the questions like, does this resonate with you? And we
Yeah.
take honest feedback and we constantly open up the conversation again. We built something about 3 years ago called the People Pact, which is if you come to ServiceNow, you can live your best life, you can do your best work, and we'll fulfill our purpose together. And that is our North Star that we talk also about quite a bit to make sure that we are living those principles, and I take it very seriously and try to make sure that all the work that I deliver or that the team from HR is delivering is lining up to those commitments. And our people have a covenant with us back, right? If they come here and do that work and have, the same purpose and want to be here, that they too are contributing to this growth of this company. And I'd say the proof points are that it's working.
It's working
But
well. Yeah.
keep it, you got to keep your eye on it. You can't take your eye off of it.
I love the people pact, and I think that's another high return practice that many organizations can think about how to benefit from leveraging that. Uh, None of this happens though without having a very serious global L&D
Mm,
function, because you can put all of these different tools in all these in people's hands, and you can work to create the culture. But at the end of the day, this has to be operationalized, and then of course you're putting so many people, as you mentioned. This is significant growth, 10,000 employees. I think you mentioned in just a few years. You plan to train several million people by 2027 through ServiceNow University.
yeah.
Can you share what that looks like and how that aligns with the broader HR and the business strategy?
Sure. So ServiceNow University is something that Bill had been talking about from the moment I got here. And probably before I got here, he's been talking about wanting a place. He believes this company is a knowledge company and that we're sharing knowledge with our customers in the world. So it was an amazing opportunity to build this ServiceNow University, which will get a big launch in May at our knowledge event, which is, like our big product event. And it's really meant to taking how we skill our people, how we skill our customers, and how we skill our broader ecosystem. And it's infrastructure around actual classwork. You get credentials, you get badges, you can move levels. It's also initiatives around like who are you listening to? What like podcasts have we pushed out
Yeah,
to people? It's predictable so that it can kind of push to you what is of interest or should be of interest based on your where you are in your job or what it is you're like or what the, like the ambition that you have is also a
your
big
ambitions. Yeah,
yeah we talk about. So it's more than like a university. I picture like going into a place. It's a whole experience of what it's like to work here, that our people are insatiably curious, and this is the vehicle with which to provide them with all of the content that's curated and easy to use and easy to find that helps them meet their full potential. And you mentioned the 3 million other learners. We need them to also be as interested in ServiceNow because that is how we fulfill our revenue, our financial dreams, our financial commitments too. So it's really important that we think of this as a whole ecosystem. Along with the technical and functional training, though, we do invest in how do you be a better people manager? How do you become a better leader? I really want people to come to this company that feel like I'm coming here to work in a great tech company, but I'm coming here because I know I can be built into an amazing leader.
yeah, I love that. And a lot of the work that you're doing is not only developing the internal talent, but it's developing external talent. If I understand that correctly, for companies that are users of your services.
Right, right. More of our talent development is actually serving that part of the organization. That's such a large number of people in the millions.
Um, well, we're part of that here at Ronstadt. So
Yeah, that's right. You're amazing partners.
I want to go back to something you mentioned about mentorship, because it's one of the things that I think has helped me so much in my career, is having phenomenal mentors, people that you can call on. And I find that they don't always have to be people inside your organization. In fact, when I think about where I was evaluating joining Ronstadt, I was able to pick up the phone and call someone like Nicole from IBM, Donna, Obed, and a few other CHROs that I know well, and get their perspective. And I think it's so important for individuals to develop um, mentors that they can access easily, but then also certainly have aspirational mentors. Just curious, throughout your career, what does that look like? Like, who have been some of your key mentors, and what did you do to make sure that you were able to go out and build that relationship, given that it really takes adding value to that individual as well, for someone to want to invest in you?
Yeah, I wouldn't be doing any of this work without the mentors that come to mind when you say that, Frank. There's people that have literally changed my trajectory of decisions, of what I might choose to do. And there were people that I worked for. That's how it started. I would say it's mostly people who I was working for that I was able to, they saw something in me, I saw something in them, and we were able to keep a relationship that went on beyond the work relationship, when you maybe weren't working for each other. I think having a few mentors is really important, but as a mentee, it's also equally important to engage in that relationship in a way that's really authentic. I don't
Yeah.
think it's about just calling when you need something, not that most people do, but I think it can't be as transactional as some might think of a mentor mentee relationship to be really the most valuable that it can be. I also have mentors like Pam Craig, who I talked, about that. Maybe I didn't say, but she's the one who introduced me to Doug at Walmart.
Okay.
She was the CFO at Accenture, retired, and then she was on the Walmart board. And she is an amazing mentor to me today because she tells me the truth. It's also someone who isn't going to say, good idea, go for it. And even really know that deeply, like maybe not a good idea, or maybe, you're going to go do it anyway. But you've at least bounced around on why you're going to do it. And I think having people in your orbit that can do that for you is one of the most valuable, if not the most valuable kind of advice I could give at any point in your career.
I mean, I'm curious though, if you think about the HR leaders in your own organization,
Yeah.
and you only have so much time to give. So I'm sure many people would want that to have you serve as a mentor. What would you say is the best way for people or HR leaders to go out and find some mentoring as they're thinking about driving their own career or driving transformation for an innovation within their organization?
I think you can find mentors that are not in HR too. That if you have other partners in the company that you work with that you find are helpful to you, like potentially a finance partner that you're working with closely, they can be a great mentor. So there's people inside your company if you're not seeing it inside your own HR team. I think networks like the one you create, Frank, that expose people to whether it's the podcast or events is a really great way for people to meet and get to know others and find relationships that make sense, that you can kind of keep up with. I think being open-minded about who could be a mentor is really important too. So like exposing yourself to networking events that can be hard for people to go to and feel like they're getting value out of that, but it's really worth trying for for your own growth to expose yourself to those types of dinners or breakfast or whatever it is that you have access to be able to get to know other people. And maybe who you meet in that room isn't your mentor, but they could lead you to one that is. You have to go into every situation with, I believe something good will come from this, even if you don't want to be there. I try to do that about everything, and you're often pleasantly surprised that something good will come from it if you kind of keep yourself open to it. And what's that saying? You don't get any shots you don't take. So
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
about that
You miss
too.
100% of the shots you don't take.
Yeah.
I love what you were just saying there, though, in terms of I think there's that one piece around being open and sort of having the courage because I think there are a number of people who I've invited to my own events, and they say I was really didn't want to show up tonight. It's so much easier for me to go home and watch Netflix, and then post the end of the evening, they're thrilled that they were able to spend some time and have a meaningful conversation with their peers. And so I do think people need to be thinking about doing that more. The other part, though, is really around what I would go back to is serve thinking about how you can be of service or lead
Mm,
with generosity, so that people will want to take the time and invest in you. So just that mindset shift, I think,
love
is
that.
critical.
Yeah, I love that.
All right, what's your favorite book or resource that you would recommend for aspiring HR leaders or aspiring CHROs?
It's new to me right now. It's called Weekend Language, and it's very easy to read, as it should be with that title. It's very focused on how to communicate in a way that is as if you're just having a conversation with a friend, a neighbor, whoever it is, trying to describe something that might typically be complex,
Mm.
and really practicing that. And I think more than ever, we could all use some of that, right? It's like with all of the things we just talked about, AI, technology, change, having a ability to communicate simply, succinctly, and and I think with confidence is a really great skill that we can all be building.
This is gonna be the hardest question I throw at you. So this is a beach vacation or ski vacation?
Oh, beach for sure. How
Beach.
about
All
you?
right, good. Beach, 100%. I'm not in for the cold weather. Let's see. Rolling Stones or Beatles?
Rolling Stones.
Oh, thank God. All right, we're still friends. I'm excited. And I'm still excited to have you join us for dinner next month.
Exactly.
We can talk about that there. Last question. If you had a magic wand and there were any one thing you could change, and this doesn't have to be specific to HR, but in the world of work right now, what would that be?
Oh. Hmm. I think it's bureaucracy.
Yeah.
If I could eliminate bureaucracy with a wand in any part everywhere, I feel like we would all be so much happier and more productive in any company, in any university, all the big administrations.
There is a phenomenal author, and I will send you a copy of his book, Terrence Morey, who wrote a book called The Upside of Disruption. And he refers to BMI as the bureaucracy mass index. So it's anyway, I'll send you some notes on that, and I think it'll be interesting for you to, as somebody good for you to get to connect with.
Yeah, I'd love that.
I really appreciate you spending time with us today, Jacqui. This has been phenomenal, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again soon.
Yeah, thank you, Frank. Thank you for today, but thank you for everything you do for the HR community. It means a lot. I mean, whenever I meet anybody, hey, do you know Frank? Everyone knows Frank because we know that you care about us and you care about us having access to each other, the ideas that are out there. And I mean, our jobs would be so much harder if we didn't have you helping us. So I appreciate you. Thank you.
You are too kind. Well, thanks so much, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again soon.
Yeah, same.
And that wraps up another compelling episode of the Radical Innovators series. A huge thank you to Jacqui Canney for joining us and sharing her bold vision at the intersection of AI, people, and purpose at ServiceNow. Here are 3 key takeaways from today's conversation. People strategy is a business strategy. When HR leaders understand how their company makes money, they become more effective business partners and drivers of impact. Adopting a product mindset in HR. By thinking like product designers, Jacqui's team is building employee experiences that scale, deliver ROI, and support growth. AI won't succeed without human enablement. Jacqui's 4-point playbook is a model for how to drive transformation with AI, but always with people at the center. And don't miss next episode, where I'll be joined by Matt Walter, CHRO of Medtronic. We'll explore how one of the world's leading medical technology companies is rethinking leadership and workforce strategies in a fast-changing healthcare landscape. Until then, I'm your host, Frank Congiu. Thanks for listening to the Radical Innovators. Stay bold, stay curious.
Human Forward. Randstad.